Ash, what went wrong with your team today? Why were Arsenal so flat? What were the issues? Tell me, bro.
Yeah, look, I think it's been consistent issues throughout the season. I know people reference, I think the first easy default thing to go to is always we have these attacking players missing. But I mean, I've seen us play this poor and this bad against other teams when Saka and all were there, like against Everton, against Fulham, against Brighton, against Newcastle, and we had our attacking players available. Then I think, unfortunately, Arteta has not done a good job this season in managing how to balance between attacking and committing people forward and then killing counterattacks and helping us attack, build attacks again. The couple of times we won the ball and we slowed down attacks, and I think second half I understood why, because every time we tried to initiate counterattacks quickly, we just got caught in the counter ourselves. So I think for me, majority of this has to go on the manager. I don't think he's done a very good job at getting the team to attack and kill teams early on in the first half, especially at the Emirates. Because I'm not even looking at like some of these teams where we play against. I think against big teams, he actually does really well. I think when he plays your big six, traditionally in the Premier League, like I think we haven't lost a single Premier League big six game in like the last 17. But when he plays against some of these smaller teams, I think he overthinks it, in my opinion, which has been a major, major issue. I'm not saying the attacking players missing is not a problem as well. Of course it is. But I don't think it's the reason why we've dropped points in these certain games, unfortunately. But yeah, for me, the league is way more than done.
Yeah, I hear it. 1-0 Chelsea, by the way. Really good goal. Yeah, but really good. More so the pass from Caicedo and the run and dribble from Neto. Some good output there from him. Igal, from your point of view, massively disappointing. Liverpool kept the door open with a couple of recent results in the Premier League, but you just couldn't burst through. And what do you make of your team's performance today? Because it was nowhere near the Arsenal standard.
All right. So I didn't interrupt anybody, so please don't interrupt me, guys. First things first. I feel sorry for Arteta because he's getting all this criticism for everybody right now. Everybody's on his case. Now, don't get me wrong. He got the lineup wrong. He shouldn't have probably started Calafiori. He probably should have started Mazzucchelli. And Mazzucchelli, the sending off was correct decision. Anybody screaming that the referees got it wrong or PGML is against us today, that's ridiculous. That was the right decision to send him off. And we all should agree that you tackle somebody in your own half on a goal-scoring opportunity like that, it should be a penalty. As for our own players, I can't blame Mikel Moreno. He's not a striker. I can't blame, Ethan. He's a 17-year-old. I'm looking at the senior players in this team. I'm looking at Martin Odegaard. Why are you letting Raheem Sterling taking free kicks? Why are you asking a 17-year-old to drive the team forward and dictate the game? Why are these guys the one running the game? You're supposed to be the one running the game. You're the captain. You're the leader. I call Phil Foden a fraud for these things, and I need to call my own players a fraud for these things because you have not been showing up this season. We've needed you. Saka's not there, and other players in the team can't do it by themselves. You've created 4 chances in the game, 8 chances in the game. I don't care. I'm asking you to find a way. It doesn't matter if these guys around you are not as good as they were before. Are you only able to create quality chances when you have elite finishers around you, or can you do it when you have? Can you raise the levels of players around you that are not as good? Because it seems like when Bukayo Saka's not there, Martin Odegaard's having poor games, and even when he was there earlier in the season, he was still having poor games. Declan Rice, I'm not even going to get onto him. I think he's injured. I think Declan Rice is injured. I think Mazzucchelli got injured. Thomas Partey was our best midfielder on the day. Calafiori has looked like a terrible defender. He looked better as a forward than a defender for a majority of the season. And I'm asking myself, what were the board thinking? They let us out to dry in January. In the summer, we already spoke about this numerous times. I'm not going to go over the summer again, but they let us down in the January. They let us down in the summer. We already know that. And if they let us down again, we could be in a situation where we could be missing our window. I still don't believe in this team can do something maybe in the future, but this season in the league is probably written off.
Liverpool. Can I ask you a question on that, please, Igal? You blame the board there, which is fair, and I understand it. We've had conversations before about the idea of Arteta moving on, and you've kind of built this picture that the club's built in his image. He runs the club from that perspective. He makes the transfer decisions, etc. So from your perspective, why would it be the board's fault if the manager has all that power, in your opinion?
I think the manager has the okay on, yes, I want this player. Maybe I don't want that player. But I don't think he's the one deciding Ollie Watkins is only worth 40 million, not 60, Terry. He
Okay.
clearly would take Ollie Watkins at Arsenal. It's just the board are telling him they value him at this price and he values them at that price. And if anybody's sitting here and saying that Arteta didn't want a signing in January, show me proof. Because he clearly wanted a signing. It's just they couldn't find something that was of the level and quality that would also be financially feasible.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a
Yeah,
question?
go on, Brad.
So with the whole transfer incomings thing, right, I totally get it. Where I think the manager has to hold accountability is he would be aware of how much money Arsenal had to spend in the summer. Maybe not so much in the January, but definitely in the summer, right? So if he knew that he would only get Mikel Merino, he would only get Calafiori, and he wouldn't have anything else because of the PSR, because of the financial fair play rulings, why would you then allow the likes of Smith Rowe, Fabio Vieira, Eddie Nketiah to leave the football club, regardless of what we feel about them as players? How can you allow them players to leave the football club and then knowingly not have any replacements? This is where the manager has to
know why?
I agree, Brandon, and I think it goes deeper than that as well. I think last season,
I disagree
when he
with
spent
that.
65 million on Kai Havertz, I don't think the board comes and tells him, I'm sorry, this 65 million is only for Havertz, no one else. They will give him a budget, they will give him a max wage cap, and he can decide who he spends it on. He decided
but
to
now
spend
we're
that kind of money on
assuming.
Kai Havertz.
But Ash, now we're assuming how business is done at
Why
Arsenal.
don't we just go off of what
We're
he's
not
actually
assuming, this is
said?
basic knowledge,
Wait. Why don't you just go off what Arteta's actually said? And numerous of times, most of the season, what did he say? He was happy with his squad. That's not sending the right. No. Wait. Agal. No one interrupt you. He has said that quite a few times. He said he was happy with his squad prior to getting, or having all the injuries naturally. But he said at that time, even when everyone else could point out that he was missing a few players, key players, especially in those.
And you know something?
Most Arsenal fans would have said that you was missing players. Agal, you would have been, when he said, "Oh, he's happy to score," you would have backed Arteta and said, "Oh, that's the right thing to do."
That's context. Of course, you're going to be happy with the squad if Saka's fit, if Jesus is fit, if Havertz is fit, if Martinelli's fit. If those guys are fit, not only do we win the league.
No. But that's just not good enough.
No.
Everyone keeps saying you can't plan for injuries.
Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted.
That's what you do as a manager.
Don't compare Arsenal with 4 attacking injuries in the same position to Arsenal before we had all these injuries. Because before these injuries,
but we were like this before the injuries. We were like this before the injuries.
I disagree.
Everton, Brighton, Fulham, Newcastle.
We've been savage with injuries. We've been savage with injuries. You know something? I don't want to come here and make excuses off the back of that poor performance. I'm simply 1 second, guys. Understand, I am not defending Arsenal's performance today. I'm defending the take that he made. I think is ridiculous because it does not apply to everything throughout the season. For you to sit here and say going into the season he was happy with the squad, now he's not happy. Of course he's not going to be happy because during the season things change. You realize certain players are not good enough. Also, injuries can happen, and at that point, if you don't address it, you are going to leave yourself punished. To go back to the summer. To go back to the summer.
This is the point that I made, though.
If we're gonna go back to the summer, talk about Calafiori, talk about Moreno, talk about Raheem Sterling, but to say, oh, he was happy with the forward line.
Do you think he's an enabler?
But hang on, this is the point though that I just made, Agal. Again, why would you allow players to leave the football club knowingly, right? When you know you've got no funds there to replace them, right?
Because the player wants to leave.
Hang on. Whilst you say that he was happy with his squad before all the injuries and he's clearly not now, that's fair enough, right?
All right.
Right? But you have to take injuries into consideration. Arsenal last season, and we all know this, were very lucky when it came to injuries to key players, right?
Oh, are we unlucky
that
this
was
season?
never going to be the case this season, right? And we knew that. You knew that as well as an Arsenal fan, right? For the past 5 years, Arsenal fans have been screaming out for somebody to come in as sufficient cover for Bukayo Saka because we knew that he would never ever be able to play 40 to 50 games a season for Arsenal and England consistently year in, year out without getting injured. That's just Bukayo Saka, let alone Martinelli, let alone Kai Havertz, who we also have no sufficient cover for. And this is what you're seeing now.
Can I address one thing before you move on to the 15th point, my friend? no disrespect to you, but you're addressing so many things at one point. It's difficult to cover all of them.
Yeah, mate. Respond to this point, then we're going to go to the super chats. Go on, mate.
Okay. Simply put, if you're going to talk about the likes of Eddie Nketiah and Emil Smith Rowe in the grand scheme of today, Eddie Nketiah, we got a reasonable deal for him. You're going to take that. Emil Smith Rowe reportedly asked to leave. And if a player asks to leave, you usually would let that player leave. You would not want to hold them at their own will at the club, because then they're not going to perform as well. And it's then if you say it's not, they didn't cover it properly, fair. That's a completely different discussion. But to go back to why did we let these guys leave, who we didn't even deem good enough at the time, some of them, I think is a ridiculous statement. Let's just go back to the summer. Instead of going back to the summer, we can go back to January and say this is where we ended up leaving ourselves out to dry.
Yeah, I agree. I agree about January, 100%.
Viewers, give us your take on that debate there between Brandon and Igal. I'd love to hear your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on that.